Hey, what's up? I'm Zach, and today I want to talk about how to sustainably grow a business that makes an impact and the three biggest problems that stop most social entrepreneurs from getting there. This is a little clip or an introduction from a new program we just launched inside of my company. And whether or not you're interested in the program, I just highly recommend sticking around for a few minutes and watching it because you're going to get a lot of clarity into the things that you need to be focused on in order to put the systems in place you need to sustainably grow your business over time. So, the first thing I want to say is that most entrepreneurs, social impact space or otherwise, struggle to consistently grow their business. So, if that's you, don't be out there thinking that you're a failure, thinking that it's somehow on you. You are not alone. Being an entrepreneur is hard, almost by design, by definition. You've got to weed bad ideas out of the marketplace. You have to sort of become a certain type of person. For all these reasons, being an entrepreneur is really hard. But what I want to get across to you today is that it doesn't have to be complicated. The principles of business, the systems that you need in order to grow a business, in order to market a business, in order to bring revenue through the door, those things are simple. It doesn't have to be complicated, right? Do they require effort? For sure. Do they require skill? Absolutely. But they don't require mystery. They don't require a lot of guessing, right? So while being an entrepreneur is hard, it doesn't have to be complicated. So the three problems that stop businesses from growing are largely these. One is that coming off to people is a little uninteresting. And I say that in love. What I mean is that you might not have a clear and compelling way to talk about what you do, right? If someone casually just asks you what you do, or you're asked to explain a little bit about your business or organization, when you say something, is it clear? Is it concise? Does it get people to lean in and listen and say, you know what, this sounds really interesting. Tell me more about that. Chances are, if you're like most entrepreneurs I work with, this is a missing piece of the puzzle, right? So your marketing, I don't want to get too far into this in this video, but your marketing is a projection of your message. It's the way you amplify your message. So what is that message? A lot of us don't take the time to think through that. So that could be the first problem that stops your business from growing. Secondly, is your results might be unpredictable. We need a step-by-step process to take someone from visitor, in the case of online, to paying customer, client, or donor, whatever that is for your specific organization. But works offline as well. Stranger walking by your storefront or whatever. We need a way to take them from stranger to friend, stranger to paying customer, client, or donor, right? Um, and so if we are constantly throwing everything at the wall, just seeing what sticks. If, listen, I get it at the founder stage, like we're always just trying to wrangle people into our business. We're trying to just speak to anyone who's trying to listen. We're just trying to see what works. We're not going to have predictable results, right? We're not going to have a predictable flow of cash coming through the door. We're not going to be able to successfully predict our timeline to project the growth of our business financially or otherwise. We got to have a plan. The third thing is that it might be relatively unknown. Maybe you've got a super inspiring message and your process is on lock. But if not enough people know about you, not enough people engage with your brand, doesn't really matter, does it? Right? Businesses exist to solve problems for people, right? And if there's no people around, well, you're not really in a good spot in business. So let me tell you what we need instead. The three things we need to fix or remedy those issues. If we're coming off as uninteresting, what we need is a clear message. The reason people aren't interested, if when you say something, people aren't leaning in and listening and that spark isn't going off, the reason isn't usually that you don't have anything good to say. Usually quite the contrary. I mean, entrepreneur, you're probably a pretty interesting person. You're in business for a reason. You believe in what you do. The issue is just that you're not being clear enough. In marketing, we always say a confused mind always says no, right? And so whether we're asking people for money or to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel or literally whatever it is, we got to be really clear about it. We got to speak to exactly where they're at, what their pains are, what their frustrations are, what their dreams are, what they really want to get out of life and our product or our program or our service. You got to be really clear about that. And so that's how we fix that first issue. To fix the issue of unpredictable results, like I mentioned, we need to simplify the process, right? Good news is, well, a lot of people think that we need to be adding a bunch of stuff. This isn't working, so we need to add something else. We need to add something on top of it. We need to add something over here and try to balance it all together. The truth is that we oftentimes need to subtract, right? We need to simplify the process and take someone from a very clearly defined step one to step two to step three. With the clearly defined process, we can optimize at each step. We can optimize our skill at each step. We can optimize our team at each step. We can optimize the resources that we give to each step, and we can start seeing predictable results. And I know from step one to step five, from visitor to paying customer, client, or donor takes generally this long. And I know from step one to step two takes this long. And I know this is where we need to improve. This is where our numbers are killing it. This is where our numbers are a little bit off. Everything becomes much more systematized and predictable. And then finally, if you're unknown, if not enough people know you exist, or maybe they do, but they're not engaging in your business, what we need to do is we need to warm it up. We need an engaged audience. A process that no one goes through, a message that no one hears is useless. So we got to fill the pipeline up with a consistent flow of people eager to follow you. So I'm going to go through in my program. What we do is there are three things that you need to do at each of these steps. And so it's basically a glorified 9-step to-do list. But when you get them all done, you'll find that you have put all the systems in place you need to grow and scale and make it sustainable, so that you can actually have the impact that you've always wanted to have, right? You can do some other things like, I don't know, run a business instead of doing marketing all day. And I promise this is easier and much simpler than you think. I'm just going to run through them real quick. And if you're interested in learning a bit more, I'll give you some info on how to do that at the end of the video. So the very first thing we got to do is define who it is that we're talking to. Right? Some people use an ICA, it's ideal client avatar. ICP is an ideal customer profile. Some people use marketing personas. Technically different, but in practice, people use these interchangeably. So again, businesses exist to solve problems for people. And if we want to be able to speak to those problems and speak to those people and invite them into the story, we want to invite them to become part of a movement that we're creating through our business. We got to know who they are, right? We want to be able to know and understand them almost better than they understand themselves. That way we can show up with empathy, we can show up with a certain amount of authority, and we can get them on board. The second thing we do is to create something called a brand script. If you're not familiar with this term, it's a tool developed by the folks at StoryBrand. StoryBrand is this great branding, messaging, marketing organization, kind of launched out of this book, Building a Story Brand. Highly, highly recommend this book if you're an entrepreneur. Long story short, it talks about how to create a story where your customer, your client, even your donor, they're the hero of the story. And your job is to be the guide, right? Your job is to be Yoda and they're Luke Skywalker. You're Dumbledore, they're Harry Potter, right? I could geek on, just I could just go on for hours and hours. So I'm going to cut myself off there. But brand script is a really great tool we use. It's really simple. It's almost like Mad Lib style. And what you do is you get like a page of marketing material that you can start to repurpose elsewhere. People say that this one exercise alone aligns their team. It just really clicks something in them about their identity and the purpose that they're serving and how they need to be showing up, why their role is important to the organization. So many benefits to this. And so we start there after defining who it is we're talking to. What do we have to say to them? That's the brand script. And then thirdly, we craft our one-liner. You could think about a one-liner more or less as a truncated version of the brand script. While the brand script is a little bit of a longer document, you can pull from it, repurpose a lot of these. You can almost think about them as marketing messages. Your one-liner is just something quick you could say in practice. You need to put a blurb in an email, or the byline of a blog post, or you're speaking at a conference or presentation. You need to write something about your organization. My favorite is when you're in the back of an Uber, who remembers those days, and the person sitting next to you says, "So what do you do?" I mean, come on, how many of us say, "I'm an entrepreneur," or the worst, "I'm a consultant"? That's no one knows what that means. So if we craft the right one-liner, what we do is we explain the problem, we explain briefly outline our solution, and we explain how it makes the world better. What's our promise? What's the happy ending, right? That's the kind of answer that gets people to lean in and listen and say, that sounds really cool. Tell me more about that. I'm interested. I want to support. How do I get involved? Etc. Okay, how do we take care of the unpredictable result problem? Oh, we simplify the process. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to optimize your website, right? Your website is like the hub. It's like the home of all of your digital assets, right? It's almost your digital identity. Unfortunately, too many people use their website as almost like a family photo album. When you go over to someone's house and maybe it's the first time you're going over there and they crack open the family scrapbook and all these photos of like, my great great grandfather immigrated to this country, et cetera, et cetera. That all might sound good and you might be interested, but there's a limit to how much you can appreciate about that at first glance. People generally decide within 2.5, 2.6 seconds whether or not to stay on your website. They've got 50 tabs open. My phone's right here on the desk. I've got a meeting in 5 minutes, working from home. My dog's barking. My partner is in the other room. There's so many things going on. People are deciding within about 2.5 seconds, is this for me? And so while the design is important and design does build trust, what really matters is the message. Do we have a good hook there that says, hey, this is the place for you? Do we invite them into a story where we're telling them how we can help them, how we can guide them to be the hero of their own journey? And are we making a clear and compelling offer to get started? That's what we should be doing on our website. And so we spend a bit of time optimizing that. The second thing we do is design a lead magnet. A lead magnet is, in simple terms, something of value that people typically give away for free, but in exchange for an email address. I don't have time to get into all the theory here on this video, but your email list is your number one most important asset in your business. In fact, it's like that old Chinese proverb, the best time to plant an oak tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now. Same thing with your email list. You'll hear so many experienced entrepreneurs say, I wish I would have been doing this sooner. Long story short, it is the only place that you really control, right? Facebook ads can get slapped. Your Instagram can get banned. Google can change its algorithms and ranking. All your SEO can disappear overnight. Your email list is the one thing that you control. People have already given you permission basically to directly contact them on a one-on-one basis anytime, right? As long as we're not being crazy about it, spamming people, et cetera, et cetera. I don't think anyone watching this is in danger of that, right? And so how do we get people onto that email list in the first place? A lead magnet. In fact, let me just say this last thing about a lead magnet is that we probably have a ton of them sitting around on our hard drives right now. There are all those free PDFs, checklists, workbooks, our email courses, video trainings, 45-minute masterclasses, webinars. All of those things are lead magnet. You probably didn't have to pay for those things, but you probably gave your email address, right? And so that's what we want to be creating in our own business. What if we do when people actually are on that email list? Like I had that problem for a long time in my business. I got a bunch of people on my email list and then never really emailed them. Huge mistake, right? And by the time you try to warm them up again, you're losing people in the re-engagement. It can be tough. Let's just say that it is much better to send an autoresponder. It's a fancy kind of intimidating word that just means a sequence of emails that gets sent along with the lead magnet, right? It's as automatic as it gets to warm people up and then pop them with the sale when the time is right, when they're the hottest, right? Again, there's a lot more I could say about this. And if you have questions, feel free to comment below, things like that, because I totally get that this can be a lot to chew on. But this is the essence of a simple process. Is there a lot more that could go into a process? Absolutely. Does it always have to start with your website? No, of course. There are all sorts of ways to bring people in with ads and organic traffic and et cetera, et cetera. But this is the basics. This is the foundation, and this is where we start, right? If you can get someone to your website, get them to opt into your lead magnet, and hit them with the autoresponder, you'll notice that you front load the work, you put in the work once, you'll start selling things on autopilot. Pretty cool. When it happens, you freak out. It's like a whole new thing unlocks in your mind. You can just be sleeping and start making sales and money's coming in while you're sleeping. It's incredible. Okay, Third and final thing is that if you're unknown, we need to attract an engaged audience. We already defined who we're looking to talk to. That's our ICA or ICP. You know, who is that avatar? Where are they hanging out though? Right? It's one thing to know who we're trying to go after. It's another thing to figure out where they are. That's the point of a Dream 100. If you haven't heard about it before, a Dream 100 is popularized by a guy named Russell Brunson, CEO of this huge company called ClickFunnels. Really great. I highly recommend checking him and the company out. He popularized this in one of his books, learned it from Chet Holmes, who was an early business associate of Charlie Munger. And lots of people use the Dream 100, even if they don't call it that, even if they don't realize that's what they're doing. This is the secret behind so many businesses' success, right? The general idea is that traffic, the people in your business, it's not something that you need to create, right? You don't need to just pick these people one by one and try to form your own community. People have already done the work for you, right? Your ideal clients, customers, your ideal donors, funders, investors, they're already hanging out in Facebook groups. They're already listening to certain podcasts. They're already watching certain YouTube channels. They're reading certain books. They're reading certain magazines, newspapers, publications, etc. They're following certain influencers on social media. The list goes on and on. Typing certain keywords into Google, right? These are all part of our Dream 100 strategy. Where are our ideal people already hanging out? How do we get in front of them? That's what the Dream 100 accomplishes. How we actually do that comes down to our traffic strategy, right? Traffic is just the internet word for people, people on the internet, right? In general, more traffic, the better. Traffic solves a lot of issues in business. You can think about this in like 2 or 3 ways. I like thinking about it in threes. Traffic can either come free, paid, or partnership. Some people just say free or paid. You might hear it called organic or paid. Organic, free marketing, that's when you start a blog, you start a podcast, word of mouth, referrals. That's all organic. Paid is advertising, your Facebook ads, your YouTube ads, Instagram ads, um, a podcast sponsorship, a radio commercial on the television, things like that. Do those still exist? I don't know on TV. Sure they do. So we know who we're speaking to. We know where they're hanging out. We got to figure out how do we get in front of them. That's going to come down to our traffic strategy. And then lastly, this is something that I feel like a lot of books, courses, programs, coaches, consultants out there completely neglect. And that's got to be able to set this on autopilot. Why? As an entrepreneur, if you haven't already found this out, you will soon. You are always the bottleneck in some way or another, right? As an entrepreneur, you're the captain of the ship. And so you take responsibility for everything that's happening in your organization. Sales are down, morale's down, there's something up with the culture, hiring's not going super well, whatever the problem is, finances, cash flow, you are always the bottleneck in some way. At the beginning, and especially when it comes to marketing, that oftentimes looks like having a hard time being consistent. And I know this firsthand, right? Um, I used to have money sitting in front of me. Like I knew what worked, I knew what I needed to do to bring money through the door, but I had a hard time doing it consistently on a day to day basis, right? When you're first starting out, or even if you've been in the game for a while, as an entrepreneur in the growth stage, you're constantly accumulating new skills. You're being torn in a million different directions. You're constantly trying to make decisions about what it is that you're supposed to be doing. Is it okay to be ignoring the stuff over there? There's just so many things vying for your attention. That's okay. That's completely normal. That's why we have to set this stuff on autopilot. We need to learn how to automate. We need to learn how to delegate. We need to learn how to build up consistent habits within ourselves so that it becomes easy to get this stuff done. It becomes easy to constantly attract more people, to take them from step 1 to step 2 to step 3 to step 4, however long that process is for you, to turn them into a paying customer, client, or donor, right? And so this is a huge thing that I do, and this is how we wrap up the program in my world, is saying, okay, now we know we've got all the systems in place, we know everything we need to do. How do we make it effortless? Okay, so my next and last question for you is, are you ready? We're piloting a new program to help social entrepreneurs implement these 3 core systems. By the way, it's social entrepreneurs nonprofit directors, if you are a founder in the social impact space, if you have a business organization that you're attempting to grow, this is for you. We're going to help you implement the 3 core systems you need in order to sustainably grow your business, all in 90 days or less. Again, I'm totally transparent. It's a glorified to-do list, right? Step 1, step 2, step 3 for each of the 3 steps. So once you get 9 checkboxes, how do you say it? You get 9, you clear 9 things off your plate. Let's say it like that. You can do it all in 90 days or less. You're going to have all the systems in place you need to grow your business consistently, sustainably over time, make the impact that you know you were put on this earth to have. So if you're interested, comment the word impact below and I'll get you all the details. As simple as that. Hope to see you there. Cheers.